source. I'm gonna go insane. I can't just keep searching Google.
Did you really just? I can imagine Gabe just typing in MA on just.
I was literally just searching up the word mop, like
mop. Oh my god!
No.
Can you imagine historians trying to research memes and they have to type in what is awa awa?
Put your getting in awa awa.
Jesus Christ, Brooke, you're really good at that.
We're in the middle of a podcast, Brad. No, we're not.
Come back.
We're not in the middle of a podcast, but we are in the middle of outtakes.
I can never tell.
Well, you know what they say about things you can't tell.
What did I say?
Oh, I didn't say that. No. I need to find it.
Jesus fucking Christ, why are you hyperventilating now?
Because I need to find it.
Oh my god, okay, I'm going to stop recording again. They're an important part of people's breakfast.
Here's the thing about sex in fiction. You don't need to have a fucking sex scene.
I can't stand those books. They make me so mad.
I can't replace a fire alarm on my own.
Save your morning routine.
Lemonade across my bed.
An unexpected pregnancy. Now baby just like who's your mommy?
Hello, everybody. My name is Dean, and welcome back to the InkGuild podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by Brooke.
Hola.
And Gabe.
Hey.
Tonight, we're going to be talking cinematic franchises. There are so many for us to talk about, so that's why tonight's discussion will be very loose. So we could either be spending, 10 minutes on a cinematic franchise, or maybe just 5 minutes. Who knows? There are so many for us to talk about. And I think there isn't really much else to say on that, aside from it could be a very long episode, it could be a very short one, who knows. Otherwise, let's just get started. Why not start with the MCU's rival, the DCEU, first?
The black sheep superheroes.
Yeah. So the DCEU started with Man of Steel. Then I forget the chronological order, but then there was Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Aquaman. Again, I don't know the order. I think Joker's part of that, but not really.
I don't think Joker is officially connected. I think it's its own thing.
Okay. So yeah,
that's how they're treating it.
Yeah, so DC's lineup of trying to become a cinematic franchise, and for the most part, I think, in my opinion, it hasn't worked. I grew up as a DC kid, so I was really hoping that the DCEU would work. I liked Man of Steel. I seem to be I guess I seem to be part of the split that either doesn't like it or does like it, and I really did enjoy it because Henry Cavill's great, the suit looks good. It's a little bit dark though. I think that the tone for Man of Steel, while fine at the time, is probably not really catching up with me all that well right now. But yeah, any initial thoughts on Man of Steel though?
I think Man of Steel was I think it set a lot of I think it set a lot of the groundwork for a lot of the problems that the DCU would have on a long-term scale, because you could tell right away that I feel like Zack Snyder had this idea. He was okay, I want to make a Superman movie, but where Superman is he's just a guy in Alaska, and he's just fucking chilling, and it's sort of the super down-to-earth Superman movie. But then they were okay, well, we have to compete with Marvel though, so we have to have a big superhero battle, and we have to have this big Dragon Ball fight at the end. So it's just this fucking mess. It's a hot mess of a movie of just trying to be these two completely. It's trying to be an indie movie, and then it's like a Dragon Ball movie, but like it's constantly just straggling between those two.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think building up to, I think everything leading up to that first flight sequence, like everything leading up to like that first moment that Kal-El gets his suit and like does that whole flying around the earth thing, that was legitimately a really cool moment, and I think the build to it was pretty nice. But then as soon as like General Zod came out of like the Phantom Zone or something, that's when everything was like, aw, oh no.
Oh.
Just like Gabe is right. Like there, like I think once it started to try to become like a competitor rather than its own unique thing, that's probably where I don't think it holds up well anymore. And I think that's more or less emphasized in Dawn of Justice, because Dawn of Justice had like some pretty interesting moments. Like it had I think one of my favorite introductions to a character is Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne running into the smoke. Everyone always loves to praise that scene, and I'm not giving it too much praise because all of it has thing, but basically it's just, you know, him running into the smoke to like save people, which is very superhero-esque, which is great. It introduced Wonder Woman, or Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, which is like a really good point in the movie, and I think that's it. Honestly, I really think that's it. I everything else about Batman v Superman really doesn't hold up well. Like the pacing kind of gets all over the place. Trying to establish Justice League from the second movie is already like it's too fast. Character motivations, individual character pacing, it just again was all over the place. It was inconsistent, not just with the comics, but like just everywhere. And the entire third act was stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the third act, I mean I think once Doomsday was the clear like, oh, let's band together and defeat him. No, I don't like that.
I remember in the MCU episode when we were talking about Age of Ultron, and like I was talking about how like an issue that I took with Age of Ultron was how like it seemed super preoccupied with like setting up Civil War and setting up like Infinity War and setting up like Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow, and just like there was like a weird amount of time that was spent on like setting up future movies that it didn't really feel like a movie. It felt like something that I had to watch as like a stepping stone to watch future movies.
Yeah.
And like that came out a year before Batman v Superman, so it's like I watched Age of Ultron and I had that complaint, and then Batman v Superman was like, fucking hold my beer. I'm gonna have a scene where Ben Affleck has like out of nowhere, no preamble to this, he just out of nowhere has a dream sequence that is just a clip from a future movie, it looks like. And then he's going to have the Flash show up in time travel and tell him something. And then, like, to cap it off, he has a scene where he watches like a PowerPoint presentation of teaser trailers for future projects and Justice League, and it's like, wow. Is this actually its own movie? Am I just watching a trailer? Right? Am I watching a 2.5 hour trailer right now? What's going on here, Zach? Talk to me, buddy.
Yeah, honestly. Brooke, any initial thoughts on those first two movies?
Well, I will be honest. I watched Man of Steel twice, and besides the penis crafts at the beginning, I remember nothing.
Yeah, that's fair.
I had to remember what the fuck you were talking about because of penis crafts. What the hell is she?
Oh, how could you forget?
Clearly I did.
I watched the first time I watched the movie, I was vaguely paying attention because I think I was doing painting or something. I happened to look up at that scene and I was like, "Holy shit, are those dildos?" I can't believe someone allowed that concept art to become made and put into the movie, and they're like, "Yeah, that looks good."
Yeah. I get they were trying to oh, spaceship. This is different society, but like, come on.
It's penis. It's just a penis.
Yeah.
It's a penis.
If nothing else, your audience was going towards like teenagers, so they were bound to joke about that anyway. So
of course, yeah.
Yeah. So with the first two, so after Batman v Superman, then I think it was I forget the order, but like there were other movies in it. So there was Suicide Squad.
Oh,
there was
Suicide Squad came right after Batman v Superman.
Oh yeah, it did, didn't it?
Yeah, like a couple months after. That was a fucking choice.
Yeah. So I think Gabe has probably spoken on Suicide Squad before in like our least favorite characters episode, but like if you want to go on a quick rant about that, because I know it's bad, everyone knows it's bad, and I don't have much else to say on that.
Well, okay, that's the thing though. I can do listen, my rants, like I can rant like fucking crazy if it's like a mediocre movie or if it's a movie that only like kind of fucks up a little. Suicide Squad is like, it's like making fun of like a dead person or like someone who's just stupid, and I'm like I can't be that mean. It just feels mean. Like I legitimately feel like I'm bullying by making fun of Suicide Squad. It's like it's such an easy target. There's just so much like fucking wrong with it. Like it's like they try to like they tried to like edge up I remember Dark Knight came out, right? And Dark Knight was like this super influential comic movie. And then there's like a exponential rise in the DCEU of like movies like trying to do that, and Suicide Squad is like the peak of them trying to like edgeify like these DC characters, like fucking Killer Croc. Like they were like, okay, so this guy, he's like a crocodile man. That's a fun concept. So what am I going to do with that? I'm going to make a guy who just has scales and he's like a gangster. Like that's just like fundamentally, it's just so much less interesting. It's like, or not even interesting. It's just like less fun. They just took concepts and made them less fun for the sake of like making them edgier. It's just so annoying.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't have edgy characters to work with already. They took fun characters and made them edgy for no reason.
Yeah. Like even cameos from Batfleck and Ezra Miller's Flash couldn't really like.
Oh my god!
Make the movie even better.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Batfleck shows up and Will Smith is like, "That's not true. That is a lie."
Like it was a star-studded cast, and they really did nothing with them, which is a shame because like I look back at Suicide Squad's casting, I'm like, damn, this could have really been something fun. But I guess, yeah, you're right. Like kind of joking about Suicide Squad has been dead and gone. So I think before we get to what I think is the big holy shit in the DCEU, and that is Justice League, let's just, I guess, quick fire through some of the other movies that I think are much easier for me at least to kind of say. So
Suicide Squad and Justice League, I think it's just Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman is great. 82.
It's 2/3 of it are great.
Yeah, 2/3 of it is great. Yeah. So 2/3 of Wonder Woman is great. 1/3 of Aquaman is fine for me. Shazam all around was pretty good for me.
Yeah, Shazam was solid.
Yeah. Birds of Prey was really fun. And I haven't seen 84, but you guys told me about 84, so I'm not going to watch 84.
Yeah, I can't talk about my feelings on 84 without applying a huge trigger warning to this episode, because Wonder Woman does some fucked up shit in that movie.
All right, yeah, so I've heard. Brooke, how about you? Any quick fire opinions on those before we get to Justice League?
I never actually watched Shazam. I keep meaning to. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I've heard majority good things about it. Suicide Squad, actually, I saw it when it first came out, and I remember it was like me and my friend in a basically empty theater, which was like, it was like just came out, and we're like, this is odd. Actually, I remember like the biggest discourse about it not even being it was a sucky movie. It was that whatever boy band that was put like a song in it, and everyone was so hyped for it, but then it ended up just being like an end credits song, and everyone was like, how could you do them so dirty?
Oh yeah, 21 Pilots.
21 Pilots, that's right. That's right.
I could not remember for the life of me. I still like that song, actually. Yeah, Wonder Woman is fine. I will watch that. Aquaman is something my parents like to watch a lot for some reason, but it just feels like such a slog. Like there's so much going on, but it also just feels like a video game where it's just like go to this checkpoint, get the thing, go to this checkpoint, find the thing, go to this checkpoint, find the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Final boss battle. Ooh, lots of people die.
Do you know what? I will give Aquaman one amazing thing, and that is Nicole Kidman's opening, or that one fight scene where Nicole Kidman gets found by a bunch of Atlanteans and it was all in one shot. Oh, amazing. I love that. I think I told you.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'll quickly go ahead. But I think like after how many like Marvel fight scenes had been jump cut to shit, love that shit. But yeah, Gabe, what were you saying?
I was just making a joke. I think the only benefit that I really had with Aquaman, it was the same benefit I had with Man of Steel, where I watched it and I was like, holy shit, I have to do an 8-hour arm workout tonight.
What does that mean?
It means I saw Jason Momoa and I was like, I need to get there. I need to get there.
Ooh, the young guy who played his young self, that guy was hot.
Sorry.
He was there for like a second.
What do you mean the young guy?
The thing, like when the actor who played like 18-year-old Arthur Curry?
God, I don't even remember.
I don't know if he was 18.
That in the movie.
I don't remember.
That's why I like stopped at the double takes. The only scene I remember where it's young Arthur Curry, I'm like the aquarium scene where he's a child. Brooke, no,
Gabe. Okay.
I was like,
damn it, guys.
Brooke, hold up a second. Hold up. Which actor are we discussing?
I completely got what she was saying, Gabe. This is all on you.
That is all on me because I completely forgot this. I looked it up just now. Now I remember there's like a scene where he's like training on a beach. And he's like young Arthur Curry.
Yeah, that's young Arthur Curry.
I completely forgot about that. When you said young Arthur Curry, I was like, huh? FBI, open up.
Okay. Anyway, Justice League.
Oh, dog shit.
Yeah, really bad.
Did I see it? I don't think I even saw it. I think I saw like pieces of it on TV every now and then.
It's bad.
Actually, same with like everything else.
After seeing it, the fucking production of that movie was a mess.
Oh yeah, like I my heart goes out to Zack Snyder, who unfortunately lost his daughter during the production, and I fully like I said, my heart goes out to him and the family. But even then, like handing it off to Joss Whedon of all people, oh no. Like I don't even think it was handing it off. I think it was more just like, oh, he's a big name, and he's also.
I don't think he was in charge of that. That was like a Warner Brothers thing.
God damn it, Warner Brothers.
Because like Batman v Superman was like tanked critically, and they were like, okay, so we're gonna like, I don't even know if it was like, I think he left the production because of his daughter dying, but I think like. Yeah. I think him getting booted off the movie, that was like Warner Brothers' decision, because I think he intended to like finish it eventually, but like they were just like, yeah, no, we're just gonna kick you off. We're gonna get Joss Whedon because he did Avengers, and we're just gonna let him do that. And yeah, it's a whole fucking mess. It's sort of a weird thing because like I didn't like Man of Steel and I didn't like Batman v Superman. But I'm weirdly excited for the Snyder cut of Justice League. Mm-hmm. Not even like from a movie perspective, but just as like I just have it's the same thing with Ant-Man, like with Ant-Man and Marvel, like on a different level because I like Edgar Wright a lot more than Zack Snyder, but like I just think I'm just glad that this guy who like wanted to make the movie, even if it's probably going to be dog shit. It's gonna be his. He's gonna make it, and I will be a lot more happy to see that than like Joss Whedon taking the movie and turning it into this extremely homogenized, like super digestible product.
Yeah, like ultimately,
weird saying that, but like that's just how I feel about it. I feel like this, it's way more like it feels a lot more studio. Justice League feels a lot more studio made than Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Yeah. And I mean, like, ultimately, it would be Zack Snyder's product. Like, you know, for better or for worse, it would be his movie. And a lot of the DCEU has been framed around Snyder's vision anyway. Right. So it would be a nice treat to his fans and a lot of people who bought into the DCU because of Snyder to like realize that. And, you know, granted, that likely won't make the Snyder Cut a better movie. Like, I still think, like, I'm excited about it too, but I don't think it'll be great. Like, I'm happy to see.
Terrible. I'm probably gonna be like half watching it and like sort of making jokes about it, but like, I respect it.
Yeah, like, I'm happy to see that, like, well, I'm not extremely happy to see it because at some point I was like, oh, this is just a meme, and then suddenly, oh, the meme's alive. Okay, fine. But I think after everything that personally the man went through, it's nice to see that, like, he's getting to see his vision realized. And there's like how many people that were in support of it, and like a lot of fan petitions obviously had helped bring it back. So like, it's, I guess, like, even without you know, take the sympathy or take the fact that his daughter passed away out of it, like, I think that's a nice gesture to do for a man that, for better or for worse, is a very good visual storyteller. So like, I'd love to see just the visuals that he comes up with, because there was a clear distinction between like the visions that Snyder had in Batman v Superman and the pretty shitty visions that Whedon had in Justice League. Like, again, for better or for worse, Snyder isn't my favorite director ever, but like, I really do admire his visual storytelling. So like, I'm excited to see just like some of the nicer stuff, or like some of the visuals that he puts into Justice League and his product too, right? What was the thing? What other things about Justice League is there worth talking about though? Like, there was. Are you guys done talking about Justice League though? Do you guys want to move on?
I mean, yeah.
Right.
Me personally, I am.
Okay. I mean, Brooke, is there anything you want to say about Justice League?
Well, like I said, I didn't really see it, so.
Let's talk Fast and Furious. What?
You didn't want to talk about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, and how everyone was like, boo, that's just a copy of Deadpool, but worse.
That's true. I think that was just like, I don't know. I liked Harley Quinn, or I liked that movie enough to just kind of like, okay, cool. If it's like, all right.
I just think it's unnecessarily hated. Like, it's too hated. Because I thought it was pretty fun.
It was pretty
watched
fun,
it twice. I really loved the soundtrack, and it felt very Harley Quinn-esque. Like, some people were like, it's a messy telling of the story, but I thought, nah, that's kind of Harley Quinn. It works.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
I think the action was really good.
McGregor was fucking great.
Oh my god, he was so good.
So I was like, mwah, that's a mwah performance. I love it. That was good.
My one disappointment with that movie was that, like, a couple of months before it came out, there was like a big leak that said like the big MacGuffin of the movie was like, well, okay, it was known from the trailers that the big MacGuffin was like a diamond that had something in it or something. I don't totally remember, but like, I remember the big supposed leak was that like it contained his dick pics, and like the whole plot of the movie was going to center around this MacGuffin that was just Ewan McGregor like murdering people to get his dick pics back, and like I was super disappointed when I found out that it was just like money in offshore accounts, and it was not in fact his dick pics.
God, that would have been really interesting to watch.
I'm so ready.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's obviously hilarious.
I didn't know that. Holy shit. Sorry, Birds of Prey fans. I completely skimmed over it. I guess we had now some time to talk about it, but I guess we're all kind of caught up with the DCEU now, because again, I haven't seen 84, so I can't really talk about it.
We don't want to talk about it.
And they got
we shouldn't talk about it.
Don't want to talk about it.
They do have the new Suicide Squad coming out, though. And I'm going to be totally honest. I'm kind of excited for that because it's James Gunn doing it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good move in IMHO. Like, they're doing what I wanted them to do. Suicide Squad. They're making it, like, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I just don't know when it's coming out.
Sometime this year, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys ready to move on from trashing one franchise to another? Because I would love to trash on this franchise. Okay. And that is base Transformers.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. I have been waiting since I think season 2 to find a reason to trash on base Transformers, and I think tonight is the best way to do it. So fuck all of them. Just that if anything's gonna get clipped, that's it. Just fuck all of them, except for Bumblebee, which I guess technically classifies as part of it because it still uses Bumblebee's face. But if we're talking specifically just base Transformers, yeah, fuck all of them. I think I've said this before to Gabe before in like previous conversations, but the first one, for its issues, is fine. Like, it's a pretty thing. Like, it's pretty much what we all imagine a base Transformers movie would be, and it's relatively okay. What is it? Like, there's still like very hyper masculine things that they try to push. There's still like a lot of the cliches that Bay is known for, but it's fine. Ultimately, it was okay. And then suddenly, once it got into Revenge of the Fallen, it was like walking off a cliff. Because Revenge of the Fallen plot, what fucking, I don't know. There's no story in Revenge of the Fallen.
Below enemy scrotum.
There you go. That's all you need. That's all. I think maybe that's all you need for base or for Revenge of the Fallen. Like, characters were super shallow as shit. The Destiny angle at the end for Sam was really goddamn stupid. I don't know why they decided to do that. Killing off Optimus was stupid because we all knew he was going to get resurrected anyway. And the action was boring. I can't believe for a director who is known for his action scenes that the action was boring. But yeah, it was boring. And then from Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, also really boring and kind of stupid because at that point Sam or Shia LaBeouf's character wasn't needed anymore, so I don't know why they decided to still focus the narrative somewhat around him. Getting God, what's his name again? What was the name for Sentinel Prime's voice actor, Spock?
Oh Jesus shit! What the fuck is his name? Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, getting Leonard Nimoy is great. Leonard Nimoy is one of my favorite original character, or one of my original cast members from Star Trek. But like, Sentinel Prime's character was dumb, made no sense. Optimus was very dumb for not seeing through Sentinel Prime's bullshit. Megatron was a bitch. Yeah, fuck the original Transformers trilogy. I needed to get that out there. I have been waiting so long to just say fuck those movies.
I can't say I've watched all of them. I remember I watched the first one when I was a little fucking baby, and then I rewatched it later, like a couple years later. I just remember being like, oh yeah, this is a mid 2000s movie, all right. And then I think I saw the second one time in theaters when I was like still a little fucking baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just not giving a shit about it, but like, I think I was a kid, so I wasn't like super enlightened to like opinions and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, car explode, car turn into robot, and robot have a pee-pee. Good movie. And then my opinions changed as an adult, but that was basically my entire opinion on that movie. And then I never watched the third one. I've watched bits and pieces of it. I've watched the scene where the guy from The Hangover, I never remember his name, but like he's like in an office, and then he like pulls guns out of his desk and he shoots A Transformer in an office building. I don't know. Those movies are just very dumb.
They're so stupid.
I don't really have opinions on any of them. I loved Transformers as a kid. Like not even those movies. I just loved Transformers like as a thing as a kid, and I was just like, wow, these are like the ugliest versions of the Transformers you could possibly do.
Yeah.
I don't get it. In Bumblebee, they fucking understood. They were like, okay, the Transformers designs are kind of fucking killer, so let's do them.
Mm-hmm.
Weird concept.
Yeah. I'll get to Bumblebee actually.
Yeah, we'll get to Bumblebee later.
Yeah. But yeah, Brooke, any thoughts on the original Transformers trilogy? So Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon.
Well, I've only ever seen the first one and Bumblebee, so.
Do you have any thoughts on the first one then?
I know nothing. I don't even remember what really happened in the first one. I just know it was bad, and I was cringing the entire time, and it was just bad, and I was cringing the entire time. And the most I know about the rest of the trilogy, the only scene that comes to mind is a tiny robot humping someone's leg. So it's not a very good impression.
Yeah. Can you imagine trying to... Sorry,
Megan Fox's fucking role in those movies. There's like a whole fucking rabbit hole to unearth there. Like I think Megan Fox has talked a lot about how like she was like 19 when they did those movies, and the whole franchise is just basically Michael Bay being like a complete pervert over this 19-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Like
it's disgusting. And like I think like better people than us have talked about the more problematic aspects of
of least of all which Megan Fox herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an authority on the subject. I just as we were talking about like the leg humping scene, I was like, oh yeah, right. That scene was of the 19-year-old who was in those movies. Right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the original trilogy doesn't really hold up that well, but what's even worse than that is the duology of Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. And okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So, I have been ranting about Transformers for like how many minutes now? So I think after I'm done and kind of get your guys' thoughts on this, then I'll pass it off to you to let you guys rant about a specific franchise. Sound good? Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, the Age of Extinction duology, basically. So that and The Last Knight were even more stupid, because at that point, Michael Bay kind of acknowledged that the Transformers name was making bank, so he's just kind of like, you know what, fuck it. So, like, the whole Dinobots thing in Age of Extinction doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna nuke parts of China, or the secluded part of China, with an alien bomb to make more Transformers angle was even more stupid. The fact that Transformers don't transform normally anymore was also hella stupid, and they don't even follow that up in the next one. The new designs have a little bit more color to them, but they still don't look great. There is a gung-ho Transformer by John Hamm, which I really hate so much, and Mark Wahlberg as the protagonist for those two movies. What the fuck? Like, the action scenes just get worse, surprisingly. Sense just goes out the window, because everyone acknowledges that these movies are not to be taken seriously, but like, god damn. Like, when moving into Last Knight, which I think was even more of a tragedy, because they were introducing so many other concepts from the original toy. So like, they were trying to introduce Unicron into the thing, Nemesis Prime into the thing, and I grew up knowing these names from like the Transformers world, so like I was kind of excited, but I don't know why I was excited, because it's like, oh, it's Bay's Transformers, he's gonna fuck it up. So fuck it up he did, because the whole Megatron is Galvatron, but suddenly Galvatron is Megatron again, and he can transform normally. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Megatron's squads were all bitches, and they were just trying to sell toys anyway. I still hate all of the Autobots. They tried to do an attempt of a strong female character with Isabelle, I think that's what her name is, but like, I didn't like her, and it was bad. What is it? There was, again, Mark Wahlberg being the chosen one for some reason because of a talisman that falls out. It is so hard explaining these movies without going off on just stupid tangents, but yeah, they aren't great. Do not watch these new Transformers movies, please. And I'm assuming you two haven't. Have either of you two seen like those movies?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm the only one who has to burden the suffering here. But from that, let's talk about the only good one, or the good live action Transformers movie, and that is Bumblebee. Bumblebee is cute. It is everything that you can kind of imagine, like a what's the genre? Like it's got all of the heart that you would imagine, or that you would want in like a giant creature and a human relationship kind of thing. So it's like very Iron Giant-esque, but like I think it's primarily everything that that those movies should be. Like, yeah, there's action, and yeah, there's transforming robots, but at the heart of it, like, it is a kid, like, it all started from a kid's toy, and it had a lot of heart to it. That's what made it like a good family movie, and probably the best one, I think, of those movies, like, if not the best one, because everyone agrees Bumblebee is the best of those movies. So that was my little mini rant on Transformers. Don't watch those movies except for Bumblebee. Let's give it to Brooke. What's the franchise that you want to just rant about for a bit? Because I know Gabe wants to rant about one, but like,
I think we want to rant about the same one.
It's possible.
It's possible. Okay, so then do it. Just start.
Well, I suppose technically in this case it's more like good rant though. Because I of course love the Rise of the Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Ooh,
Monkey. They're apes.
I was watching it earlier today. There's a line where he says they're not monkeys, they're apes. I just fucking cracked up.
All right, well, Brooke, the stage is yours. Go ahead.
The thing is, I never actually watched like the original ones, like the really old ones that set everything in forward. And there's like what, four of those like really old ones?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't watched them either.
Yeah. The only ones that I have seen are the most recent ones from 2011 up, and the honestly pretty trash 2001 one.
Was that the one where it was like the twist where it was like, oh, Abraham Lincoln is monkey now?
Yes.
Oh, was it really?
Funnily enough, also Mark Wahlberg.
Oh my god.
It had something to do with like time. It's like, someone explained it. It was like the chimp that goes missing at the beginning went through first. Mark Wahlberg went through in the middle, and then their ship went through last. So the ship was the first to arrive on that ape planet. Mark showed up thousands of years later, and then at the end of the movie, his chimp showed up last. And they say that Thaddeus, I think his name was Thaddeus, General Thaddeus, when he gets trapped inside the cockpit of that ship, after everyone gets mad at him for being so anti-human, they say that he like somehow constructed a ship, went back up into space, went through the vortex, and ended up on Earth before Mark Wahlberg's astronaut team had left Earth, and that's how he changed Earth's history. I don't know. It was really confusing, and you don't get that at all from the movie. So I'm like, I don't know how people came to these conclusions, because it was honestly just an awful movie. But I kind of like that movie because Terry Notary did an amazing job of ape school, and everyone became so ape. And then Terry Notary just became like my absolute favorite person because he does all the aping, and every ape movie, he's everywhere. And I think ape movies are great because people get to be apes, and they're so passionate about being apes. And going to strictly the 2011 and forward reboot of Rise of the Planet, and then Dawn of the Planet, and then War for the Planet are honestly, it's just a fantastic trilogy. I think it's a great, like, it's a perfect trilogy in my opinion. Everyone says like the first one is the most lacking, which is fine, but it's still like entertaining. You can get through it and you understand what's happening, and there's still like good conflict in it, and it's really fun to see all the apes expanding their intelligence and like how they came to be, as well as how the virus got set off in their world. And Caesar's, you just come to love Caesar's character and understand exactly where he's coming from, and he just becomes such a central root, and you can root for him and you love him. And it's like in the previous movies you're always rooting for the humans, right? But in this one you're just like, ape, it's for the apes, only ape, only Caesar ape. It's just it, and it's great. I love that they did that twist where it's like you're no longer rooting for the humans, you're rooting for the apes. You want them to keep going and survive, and it's good.
Take a shot how many times Brooke says ape.
I'm just gonna try and hammer it home. They're apes. Monkeys have tails. Apes do not.
It's been a while since I've seen. I don't think
I'm gonna keep calling them monkey.
Ape.
Monkey.
Ape.
You're outnumbered.
I've taken too many anthropology classes to do anything less than be completely accurate.
Okay. All right. Anyway, it's been a while since I've seen like the first. Like, I think I remember seeing the first one in theaters. I don't remember much from Rise of the Planet. Was that the first one?
Yep.
Okay, so then what was the second one again? I completely forgot.
Dawn.
Yeah, I don't remember much from Dawn, and I've seen snippets of War from like I think from like movie, like from like YouTube, but other than that, I don't remember much from War.
Watch Apes.
Watch Apes.
Watch Apes. Cleanse palate. Good movie. Ape.
Yeah. The mocap in those movies, from what I remember, is really good though.
That's the thing. Like the expression, like the emotions are so fucking good. It's like, it's good. They don't speak that much, especially in the first one, but you still feel the emotions. And then they
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis is just so good. It's so funny. My parents just call him the angry man. The one who always looks angry. I'm like, well, you're
not wrong. He was Smeagol.
And doesn't Terry Notary like actually do mocap work in those movies too?
Yes, he's Rocket in those movies, and he does a lot of extra work to make.
That man's a fucking machine.
He's fucking wonderful. He is Ape.
I think I've plugged this movie before, but there's this like really bad shit Swedish movie called The Square, and Terry Notary is in it, and his whole role in that movie is there's like an art exhibit where he's like a monkey man, and he just goes around this restaurant like harassing people. Like he's not in a costume or anything, but he's like the idea is like it's like he's just like pretending he's like acting out as a monkey, and there's this whole scene, this bad shit scene where he's going around this restaurant and harassing people in the persona of a gorilla. It's fucking wild.
That sounds fantastic.
Holy shit.
I'll send a clip later. It's fucking great.
Awesome. Good.
Nice. All right. Gabe, is there a franchise you want to rant about? So, because I think after you rant about your franchise, then we'll talk about Star Wars.
Okay, that sounds good, because there's a franchise I do want to talk about. It is also a monkey franchise. I know that people call it a Zilla franchise, but I will call the Monsterverse the Monkeyverse until my fucking dying day. Kong is the star of this show. I know Godzilla's had more movies, but I don't fucking care. Anyway, so yeah, I fucking love kaiju movies. Kaiju movies are like my fucking sweet spot. They're stupid, and they're basically just like watch these guys in costumes fuck around on a set. That's basically the whole appeal of them. You just watch like a bunch of guys fucking around on like this model set of a city and just throwing each other fucking around. It's great. And I just fucking love that like some genius at Legendary was like, okay, let's bring back fucking kaiju movies, because there's just something that's just deeply endearing about watching giant monsters fuck with shit. They're just great. And so there've only been 3 movies so far. They've got one coming out, but there've only been 3. The first Godzilla movie, I remember I was like okay with it, but I wish there was more Godzilla. But I sort of understood why there wasn't, because like I got what they were going for, but like I kind of didn't give a shit about the human characters in that movie. That's like, if I have one problem, I will get to my solution later. I was talking about this before the podcast. I have like, if anyone at Legendary is listening to me, I'm about to solve all your fucking problems. But like, basically, yeah, in 2014, Godzilla, I was just like, I did not give a shit about these people at all. Like, I think I don't know exactly what it was, because like I can't say that it was too serious, because like I know that I love Shin Godzilla, and Shin Godzilla is almost all people. I think Shin Godzilla, if you examine it runtime wise, like Godzilla has the same amount of runtime in that movie as in 2014 Godzilla, but for some reason Shin Godzilla just like fucking works, because I actually like the human. I like the human characters in that movie, and I just didn't give a shit about the human characters in this movie. And the same thing with King of the Monsters. Like, that movie I think understood a little bit more, because that movie has way more monster in it, but I didn't really give a shit about the human characters in that one either. My personal favorite so far though is Kong Skull Island, not just because I like Monkey. I am capable of not having a bias. It's just a fun movie. I think the human characters, it's a weird sort of thing. I think the human characters in that movie are a lot more tolerable because they're a lot less complex. Like they like, a lot of the characters will show up and they'll basically summarize their entire character, what their entire character is, in like one sentence as soon as they appear. Like, I'm a photographer. I'm an adventurous guy. I'm the military commander. I'm the rogue scientist. Yeah, I'm the rogue scientist. I'm the young soldier. I'm the veteran soldier. The like very basic characters, but like I think they get the job done. Like, there's nothing, like nothing's gonna win any awards in Kong Skull Island, but like they definitely get the job done. And like there's that one scene where Kong is just fucking ripping apart helicopters and tossing them around, having a good time. I fucking love that shit, dude. And like, to me, that's when kaijus are at its best. It's just a big monster just fucking with shit. And I think come Godzilla versus Kong, like that's gonna be like at its peak. We're just gonna see two monsters fucking throw hands. There's probably gonna be a third monster. The trailer's being very tee-hee ha-ha about it, but like 100% Mechagodzilla or some shit's gonna show up. That's gonna be like the...
I bet.
I'm willing to... I've been talking with some of my friends, like, I'm willing to bet they're gonna do the same thing they did with like OG Mechagodzilla, where like Godzilla's gonna take a fucking crazy punch to the head, and then like there's gonna be like hologram glitches, and it's gonna be like, wow, it's actually been Mechagodzilla. It's not high art, but
it's still enjoyable though. Like you said, there's always something to enjoy when it comes to kaiju movies. Like, I remember like Godzilla's actual like debut when he had that first roar in the 2014 movie. Holy fuck, amazing. In the theater, like experiencing that for the first time was great. I really enjoyed that. Ghidorah getting revealed in King of the Monsters was also pretty badass. Rodan's introduction in King of the Monsters was great, and you're right, like Kong's introduction in Skull Island, pretty fucking sweet. Beautiful. Yeah, like when we're not focused on the human characters, and I really do not give a shit about the human characters in kaiju movies, when it's just monsters like battling each other, amazing. Like,
yeah.
And that's why I'm excited for Thing, because ever since like we had started talking more about like like kaiju movies, Gabe, and I think just about Monkey in particular, I was like really like I had started watching. I rewatched the original Godzilla movie and I rewatched King of the Monsters, and I'm like, holy fuck! Okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for a thing. I'm really excited for for Godzilla versus Kong, because then it's like, you know what, Kong's story, like up until this point, has been pretty cool, and Godzilla's Godzilla. I'm excited.
They're both cool big monsters.
Yeah.
I think
and big monster, you know.
Yeah.
It's just you just need the serotonin rush of watching two monsters throw buildings at each other, and that's totally fine.
You don't need anything complicated. You just want fight.
Yeah.
I think the secret though. I think, all right, here's the thing though. I think it's clear that they want, like, what all the other big cinematic universe things right now, what they want is, like, they want to have, like, they want to compete with Marvel. That's the big thing. Like, can we compete with Marvel? DC was like, can we compete with Marvel? And then they realized, not really. So we're just going to do our own thing. We're going to do, like, solo movies that, like, have vague cameos and references, but there's no real, like, crossover things because we're not going to compete with Marvel. And like Dark Universe had that too. They did The Mummy and they tried to set up a whole bunch of other bullshit in The Mummy, and The Mummy was fucking terrible. So some stroke of genius guy at like in a Universal was like, okay, what if we give Blumhouse just all the rights to these monsters and we'll just let Blumhouse make horror movies? And they made The Invisible Man. I don't even know how that many people who know that that's technically in the same cinematic universe as Tom Cruise as The Mummy. But The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Olsen is a fucking amazing movie because they were just like, we're not going to give a shit about being a cinematic universe. We're just going to make a horror movie with classic monster characters. That's just good shit. I think the Kaijuverse has a legitimate opportunity to like reach Marvel's level, but they're not there yet. What they need to do. What I'm afraid they're going to do is like after King of the Monsters, I was like, okay, I really hope we're not just setting up a bunch of monsters so we can have like spin-off movies about each of these individual monsters, because I don't want that. I don't want a Rodan movie. I might stomach a Mothra movie, maybe. I don't know. Could be. I don't know. Who knows? Shit. We're young, man. We're living. But like
love the spirit.
I think what Legendary needs to do is I think they need to like seriously pool some money into like investing in some other rights and stuff. Like I think first of all, Gamera, that's like gonna be a huge one. For those listening who don't know, Gamera is like one of the big Godzilla competitors over yonder. He's like sort of like I guess you could call him like sort of Pacific Island Godzilla. He's a big turtle. Gamera's fucking awesome. Gamera's this giant fire-breathing turtle who fucking spins and like just all kinds of crazy shit. And Gamera's never really had like the same kind of big reboots that Godzilla has had like several of. So I think if these movies, if Legendary is like, okay, we're gonna get the rights to Gamera, we're gonna make a big Gamera movie, that would make fucking bank. Like there are so many people who I think, especially over in the East, who will fucking who would jump at the chance to see like a big high budget Gamera movie, and especially if they sell it with like Gamera's gonna have a fucking crossover with Godzilla. That's never happened before. They would that's just like money in the bank right there. And then moving on from that, we need to do something about the human characters. And so I'm thinking either one of two things. I think Legendary has already done Pacific Rim. So why not just bring Pacific Rim into the Monsterverse? There's no reason you can't. It's just like you have the rights to a franchise that is just humans in big robots fighting monsters. And like maybe the lore won't match up, but no one cares about the lore. If you just say we're gonna put Gypsy Danger in the next Monsterverse movie, people would fucking watch that. That would be fucking great. No one would have a problem with that. And like if people like watching big monsters throw shit around in a city, and Pacific Rim is like the peak of that. There's a scene where the robot carries around a ship and wheels it like a fucking baseball bat and smacks a monster on the head with it. And it gave that was the peak of my happiness in my entire life. It's all been downhill from there. So I think Legendary's just gotta buckle down and say like, hey, that's like, we want to reboot Pacific Rim because Pacific Rim 2 was dog shit. So like, let's put Pacific Rim in there. And if they can't do that, I'd say solid option B is get the rights to Ultraman, because that's another.
Oh my god, I would love to see Ultraman.
I think Ultraman is like, I was talking about this before the podcast too. I was saying like the 18. I have an 18 movie plan, and that 18 movie plan involves Ultraman. Legendary execs, if you're listening to this, I'm about to drop the shit that is going to make your fucking universe a Marvel competitor. So Ultraman has got Ultraman Belial. Do you want to know what Ultraman Belial's whole deal is? He's a fucking guy who's a big Ultraman villain, and much like Thanos, his whole thing is that he's just going around collecting things, and so that he can just control monsters. Ultraman literally has a built-in Thanos competitor right there. If you introduce Ultraman, you can start introducing this whole fucking setup thing with Ultraman Belial. And you can just have a whole fucking franchise built around getting to this crazy kaiju, Pacific Rim, Godzilla, Gamera, King Kong, Ultraman crossover movie. Like, legendary. Whatever the cost it would take to like get the rights to Ultraman for a movie would be dwarfed by the amount of fucking moolah you would make on that. So many people would, if you said that Ultraman, Godzilla, and King Kong are going to be in a movie together, you don't even have to say anything else. Like, I'm there day one. That's all I gotta say about that. Get Ultraman, get Pacific Rim, get Gamera, maybe get Evangelion.
Oh my god!
just get access to whatever franchises that involve giant robots or giant monsters. Just do whatever you want. You have a Monsterverse. Just fuck it.
Yeah. All right, Legendary. There you go. If you're gonna be taking Gabe's ideas, at least pay him for it too.
Maybe don't try to get Pulgasari. I don't think that would go over well.
No, don't get Pulgasari. Don't do that.
I can't imagine that would go over well for anyone. Don't.
No.
But anyone else.
Yeah. That's a good plan. I would pay so much fucking money to see Ultraman because I grew up with Ultraman.
Oh yeah.
They should bring back Tom Hiddleston.
They should bring back Tom Hiddleston. I don't know how it would work. That movie's in the 70s, but like...
I know. I would be lying if I said I didn't watch that movie just for Tom Hiddleston and Big Monkey.
That's fair.
So, I just want to throw this out there. Fun fact. I started singing Vera Ling's We'll Meet Again before watching the movie, and then the song was in the fucking movie, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? Did I predict this? I was freaked the fuck out. I was like, huh?
Oh my
what?
God. All right.
But Tom Hiddleston.
All right. Well, that's Brooke's thing. That's Brooke's request, Legendary. You better fucking do it.
That's it.
It doesn't have to be the same character from Skull Island either. Just introduce a new character with Tom Hiddleston. It's totally fine.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is his kid. This is his grandkid. This is a distant cousin that ended up looking exactly like him.
You'll already have Gabe and I's money when you introduce Ultraman. You can totally introduce. You can totally reintroduce Tom Hiddleston again. It's fine.
Yeah, my money. Yeah.
This franchise is not like an intellectual pursuit. You can totally say that this is just like Tom Hiddleston's character's great grandson or something, and I fucking believe it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna be fine with it.
Yes.
All right. Going on from that, let's talk Star Wars.
Dun dun. Sorry, I won't do that.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think how we'll do this moving forward is that after we talk about Star Wars, then we'll do mini rants about other movies, and then we'll round out with another big franchise. But yeah, Star Wars. Really like the original trilogy. Prequel trilogy, for its valid critiques, isn't as bad as I used to hate it on for, and the sequels, again, for all of its critiques, is not great. That's my one sentence wrap up of it before we start discussing.
I would like to preface that I am a massive Star Wars fan, but it's mostly of extended universe, and I don't actually love any of the movies.
Yeah. I love The Mandalorian, as I've said in previous episodes, but like the movies themselves, So
if we're strictly talking the movies, then I don't know if I have a whole lot to say about Star Wars, but yeah, a lot of my like opinions on Star Wars are like, I think Star Wars is probably like the peak of like what you could do with like a shared universe, because like they have the movies and like all these like various lore stuff is like vaguely set up in the movies, but then you get shit like Clone Wars and The Mandalorian and these fucking books and the fucking video games, and they all come in and they're like, we're gonna do like I think George Lucas sort of struck gold when he was like, I'm just gonna like make the movies and then I'm going to let people do whatever the fuck they want with like outside content, and I'm not gonna like stick my little nose in it. I'm just gonna let them do what they want, and it can be canon. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And they got some like there's some gold in there. Like I will say, Clone Wars is like hands down the best thing that is in Star Wars, no question for me. And then like Mandalorian probably close. I don't even want to talk about Mandalorian. I just want to talk about Clone Wars. Dean, can we talk about Clone Wars?
Yes, you and Brooke can talk about Clone Wars.
God bless. God bless.
I mean, it's not technically like a cinematic franchise, but it is still part of Star Wars. So, yeah, go ahead.
Didn't you specifically say this was film franchises?
It's fine. Just talk about Clone Wars.
It's an extension of the film franchise, and it's a visual medium. It's close enough.
It's also our podcast.
Yeah.
Fuck you, professionals.
I'm
kidding. Please work with us. We're fun. We're Gen Z, but we're fun.
Yeah, but like, I think like, well, I think what Clone Wars gets right is they're like, okay, so we have these movies and they have like all this various stuff that's like set up and like sort of exists. So what if we just take that and we'll just do all these like super interesting narratives and like have like shit. We'll just like do like sort of mix and match. Like it's sort of like lore Mad Libs with Clone Wars. Like some of the best arcs I think in that franchise are like sort of like what if blah 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 lore thing, blah 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 thing from the movies, and then like mesh. Like my favorite arc is probably the Umbara arc, which is basically the whole premise of the Umbara arc is like, what if a Jedi saw Order 66 coming? What would happen from that? And you have this fucking crazy arc where these clones are sort of have to fight against this Jedi who's just gone fucking crazy and is killing all of them. It's an amazing arc. And then you have that arc where like fucking Obi-Wan. Everyone likes Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan's stories in the prequels are like pretty meh. He's just kind of there to be like a little side-butted Anakin and do Jedi stuff. But like Clone Wars has an arc where he fakes his death and then gets a face transplant and goes undercover as a bounty hunter to like.
Oh my god, the betrayal arc, fucking gooch. The cube.
Like that's the kind of shit that like I didn't even know that I wanted before I watched Clone Wars, and now that I've had it, I'm like I can't even look at the direction of mainline Star Wars content, knowing that there is just this plethora of pure incredible content in Clone Wars. It's just so fucking good.
So much. Yeah.
And I think maybe that's like the problem with Star Wars, like tying it back into the movies. The movies themselves within their respective trilogies have their story, but ultimately it's the fan investment that makes Star Wars such an amazing property. Because, you know, like you said, with people who made Star Wars, or look, with people who made Clone Wars, with people who made The Mandalorian, the extended universe books, hell, even Jedi Fallen Order to an extent, it's these extra stories where people introduce their own characters that makes it so fun. And the stories within the original trilogy themselves, like, I think let's just talk about like the stories within like the actual movies now. The original trilogy story is pretty iconic, for better or for worse. Like, it's a pretty recognizable story. It's basically the hero's journey story. And it's fine. Like, it serves its purpose. It introduces some of the most iconic characters in sci-fi. So you get Luke, you get Han, you get Leia, you get Chewie, you get, you know, Darth Vader, Palpatine, the Empire, the Rebellion, all of them. They're all iconic for a reason. When you expand it into into the prequel trilogy, there's the obvious disconnect when it comes to the technology, as one thing I've noted. Like, and this is just like a filming thing wise, but like it's pretty obvious that the advancement in technology from the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy, it's like, what the fuck? When were things suddenly so advanced? But storytelling wise, within the prequel trilogy, was fine. Like, ultimately, again, it's still kind of like a hero's journey story. Like, you get the protagonist that's kind of plucked out of nowhere, but like it's expanding on the tale with the Jedi Order, with with the rise of Palpatine, with when everything starts to expand, that's when things, I think, in the prequel trilogy gets fascinating, because it fleshes out more of the Star Wars canon, minus the midichlorians, because I didn't enjoy that. And I think a lot of people kind of meme on it now, but yeah, prequel trilogy is fine. Like, you can hate some of the characters, but ultimately the storyline is still pretty based. It's still pretty all right. The prequel trilogy, or the sequel trilogy, though, does have, I think, a lot more noticeable problems, and that's probably the one that I can invest more time talking about, because holy shit. Like, I didn't mind Force Awakens thing. I didn't mind Force Awakens being a retelling of The New Hope, because it's again a hero's journey story. It's a good way of like softly introducing a new generation of Star Wars. Colors are great. Performances were all right. It was good. And then I'll get your guys' opinion on this one, but The Last Jedi was interesting. I've certainly warmed on it a lot more because of the innovative risks that it took, and I still remember like the scene where fucking what's her name? Huh?
Are you talking about like the warp speed maneuver?
Yeah, the warp speed thing, like, or the light speed scene. Oh, that's gorgeous.
My bad. I said warp speed. Oh. As in Star Trek. My bad.
Franchise.
I meant hyperspeed, yes.
Yeah, so the hyperspeed scene was wonderful. But I mean, yeah, I think that was a great scene. And certainly, like, what is it? The fight the fight scene with Rey and Kylo against like the I forget what they are in canon, but like the red stormtroopers. That was pretty cool.
The Red Boys?
The Red Boys. I don't remember what they're called. Like, that was a pretty cool fight scene. And just
And they're just called Snoke's Guard.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Snoke's Guard. They're like, that was a cool scene. And then Rise of Skywalker was a mess. Holy shit. There was way too much going on, and none of it was making any sense. So, yeah, I'll get your guys' thoughts on let's just get your guys' thoughts on the sequel trilogy, because it all seems like we're kind of agreeing with what I said with the original and prequel trilogy. They're fine stories.
Okay, so you know how I was saying, I'm not gonna go back to talking about Clone Wars, but I do want to talk about the EU, but not like tangentially. So okay, so one of the best things about like the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy is like how there's like there are the stories, but there's also like a really deep amount of like lore going on in those movies, and there's a lot to like build off of. Like, you have all these interesting planets, and you spend a lot of time on them, and like you learn about like the cultures of these planets, and like you have the rebels, and you have the empire, and like you learn things about the people who are in them, and like for all the shit that like for all the weird complicated politics in the prequel trilogy, like I think I still did understand the separatists. They were separatists. It speaks for itself. Like, I understood who they were, even if they were like kind of bad shit and like incomprehensible. I was still like, okay, so these are like they don't want to be a part of the Republic. They're space libertarians. I get it. I understand what's going on here. They don't like paying taxes. This is perfectly respectable. I watched all of the fucking new Star Wars movies, and I've watched some of them like multiple times over. You put a fucking gun to my head and asked me to tell you what the First Order was or what they wanted. I could not tell you. I have no fucking clue. Are they space ISIS? Are they the Empire too? Like what's going on there? I have no idea. They're just a mess. And like I can tell they were just like, okay, well, people like the Empire, we'll do the Empire again. With no regard to the fact that the Empire was like fucking completely destroyed. So it's like, who are these guys? What are they doing? It's never explained.
Yeah.
True.
Brooke, anything to expand on that?
Oh, honey, I could talk about Star Wars for hours and hours. See, I'm a spoiled little brat though, and I didn't get into Star Wars until I was like 8. So by that time, the original trilogy was already kind of old, and we already had like a lot of advances in technology and stuff. So I've never really been that big of a fan of the first 3, because they're just, they're older movies. They're not as advanced. However, also being a major enthusiast of films in general, I absolutely love learning about the fact of like how innovative it all was. And like they had to literally create new filming techniques and stuff for those movies. So like going back to watch them is amazing because I'm just looking at all like the technical details of it, and they're just like phenomenal in that sense. And I know the third one gets a lot of hate, or like, well, not a lot of hate. People just generally think that it just paled majorly in comparison to the first 2, which it did. But as a kid, honestly, that was my favorite, and that's what it was, right? It's just like the Star Wars original trilogy brought in so many different people. It appealed to everyone, from really young kids to the elderly. It was just fantastic in that sense. And yeah, then the prequels came along, and even though in a lot of other different technical aspects they were worse than the original trilogy, they're honestly just so entertaining to go back to and watch. Like, I kind of hate the first one because like the cuts and stuff were just awful. Some of the dialogue, awful. I mean, all the dialogue. Everyone knows that the dialogue is pretty awful in those 3. But they're just so fun to watch. Like, you just sit there and you can't help but smile because it's just so bad that it's good, and it's good because it's bad. And then it also meant the Clone Wars was made, so it's like, it's great. And then with the most recent ones, I really liked The Force Awakens, and I was kind of upset when everyone was always like, it's just retelling of A New Hope, because I didn't really see it as that at all, and it didn't matter to me anyway, because George Lucas continuously always said that he loved patterns and he loved coming back to things and having repetition and shit like that. So it's like, even if it is sort of like a retelling of A New Hope, that would definitely fit with George Lucas's vision anyway, so I loved it. Last Jedi was pretty good to me in some regards and absolutely awful in others. That could also be an hour-long rant I could do. And then Rise of Skywalker is something that I absolutely hated. I went and saw it like 3 times because I think I went and saw it on my own, and then I saw it with my brother, and then I saw it with my parents. So I had to see it 3 times in theaters, and I was so mad the entire time. I'm like, I'm never watching this again. And then when we had it on DVD copy, I watched it again because it's just like, am I thinking of it that badly? So I watched it again, and I was like, it's still really awful. But the more I watch it, the less I hate it, but it's because I'm envisioning another way it could have been made. Like, instead of actually watching what I'm watching on screen, I'm watching what's on screen and then thinking of ways that it was better in my head, which isn't the point of the movie. But it's definitely better that way. And then you have like the Solo movies with an actual movie called Solo. And yeah, that movie was pretty awful. However, it's pretty alright. Pretty good, actually, even if you just think of it as like a space heist movie and you don't think of it as being connected to the Star Wars universe and kind of ruining a beloved character. Rogue One was also one that I absolutely loved, and I didn't actually understand any of like the bad rep I got for it. Like, I heard some people were just like, it's just too loosey-goosey with like the characters. and you didn't have time to bond with them. So their sacrifice, I think, it didn't mean anything. But I was bawling like a goddamn baby so hard that I couldn't even see Darth Vader on the screen when he came on the screen. I couldn't fucking see him through my tears. And I loved it because it was like the first like true war bit we got, like other than like Clone Wars and crap. Like they briefly mentioned like we lost many Bothan spies, and you have the New Hope, we lost spies. It's like great. And then you had that movie come along and be like, realities of war. Andor has to, you know, kill people, even if they're good people, just to save his own skin, because that's what a rebellion is. It's super risky. It's not a stable job, that's for sure. Lots of people die, and it's like, huh, they sure fucking do.
Do you think maybe overall, then... Oh, sorry, Brooke, go.
I was just going to say, overall, it's like I can watch these movies quite enjoyably, but I never love any of them. And I'm more invested in just the extended universe in general. And I honestly, what I hated about the new ones was that I had read so many novels that were canon to me. Like I grew up, okay, I didn't grow up, words. I read all the novels of like post-Empire time and like Luke rebuilding the Order. He has Mara Jade. I really want to see Mara Jade on in the movies. I wanted to see his new Order. I wanted to see the Jedi Masters that I'd grown to know, whose names I can't even remember now because all I can think about is freaking Kylo Ren. And that was another thing. I had Han and Leia together, and they had 3 kids, and I grew up with those 3 kids. I read those 3 kids growing older in the books. And so hearing that it was just one kid and his name was Ben for some reason, I was mad. And I just really wanted my Mara Jade. I'm really mad about that. I fucking wanted her, and she wasn't there. Grr.
Gotcha.
And also, one last thing. I am so sad that they did Luke dirty in The Last Jedi. Like, that's my biggest complaint about that movie, is that even Mark Hamill was so upset in the way that they took his character. Wasn't fucking fair. And I wish they'd listened to him. I wish Mark had realized that if he decided, no, I can't let you do this to my character, and backed away until they changed it, like fans would have stood behind him. Because it's just so frustrating that even he was like, this isn't what Luke would do, but they made him do it anyway. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. 10 out of 10. That was a really good rant. Well, I mean, just to pose the question then to both of you, do you think Star Wars has an innovation problem? Because what I mean by innovation is like coming up with new ideas and sticking consistently with said ideas. Because I guess it's unanimous, or like I guess for me, I think it does, because with the extended universe and the cinematic universe, it's obvious that the cinematic universe is trying to play it safe because of obviously the international audience and the fact that it is not a family friendly franchise, but like a household franchise that like they have to not overload everybody. But at the same time, there is so much creativity within the Star Wars canon that they're missing out on, that I think is a shame that they don't put in the movies. And granted, like, you know, for all of the ideas that Last Jedi gets shat on, like Luke's character portrayal, there was like how many new interesting ideas that definitely did work. Like for one thing, the whole concept that Rey's family was Rey's family was no one. Like there wasn't any significance, and it was just a Force sensitive child. That was cool. I like that. And they just decided to decided to go against and just say that she was a Palpatine. I'm like, aw, man, god damn it. But you know, yeah. Do you guys think the cinematic Star Wars has an innovation problem? If that makes any sense.
I think especially with the sequel trilogy, a lot of the major like stem from the fact that they were like there wasn't like a vision going into it. Like even with the prequels, for all of its failings, like you can tell that there was a clear idea of like what George Lucas wanted to do. He wanted to have this story about like Anakin being like he's a slave, and then he was basically like bought by the Jedi because he was force sensitive. Meanwhile, like all the other slaves on Tatooine are left to die, and now Anakin is brought to this new world where, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to become a Jedi. Hell yeah!" Except, oh, what's this? Now the guy who brought me here is dead, and I have to answer to a bunch of people who are just giving me orders, and I have to call them master, and like I have to abide by their rules just because they've told me to. I haven't escaped slavery at all. Where's my mom? My mom is dead because the Jedi left her to fucking die on Tatooine along with every other slave. And then like after all this, just refuse to acknowledge him because he's like he dares to have like maybe a couple of emotional problems, maybe a little horny, and like I can tell there's a plan there. I don't feel that with the sequel trilogy at all. I did really feel, and I think it comes from a lot of the fact that they were like I don't know if this is true. I've heard this that like they weren't even like written with like a clear, like they weren't written. There was no conversations between like the different writers. Like J.J. Abrams wrote The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson was like, he was given the Force Awakens script and was like, work based on this. We're not going to let you have a conversation with like J.J. Abrams about like what input you want to do for your movie. You just have to work with this. And then they were like, okay, Colin Trevorrow, make script based on Rian Johnson's script, and you can also have no conversations with them. And then they just did all that. And then like at the last minute, they were like, okay, Colin Trevorrow, we're going to scrap your script completely. And we're going to do this completely new script where Palpatine is the villain. There's no final battle on Coruscant. And fucking sentence much. It's just bad. And like, I feel like an issue that gets brought up a lot with the sequel trilogy, and it correctly gets brought up a lot, is like they just bounce around from planet to planet. And like, there's almost no development of any of these new things that get brought up. Like, they will just I could not tell you a single thing about any of the planets that show up in Rise of Skywalker. Like, I don't even know all their names. I know there's one that's called Kojimbi or something like that, because I remember it sounded stupid. But then there's a desert planet at the beginning that isn't Tatooine. There's like the forest planet that all the rebels are on. There's like that ocean planet. I don't know what they are. I don't understand them even a little bit.
So then I think maybe it's not necessarily an innovation problem. It's probably just a vision problem.
I think it's a combination of a vision problem and like overhandling. Because like I was saying before, like one of the things that I think made the EU work was like that George Lucas was involved, but he wasn't like super involved. Like, he wasn't putting anybody under his thumb. Like, Brooke, you were talking about like Heir to the Empire and like fucking like like Heir to the Empire was an amazing series of books because it wasn't like nobody was like really pressure to do anything any one person's way. It was like someone had all these great characters and they were like, I'm just gonna expand on this and I'm gonna make something new and great. And then you had Dave Filoni making the Clone Wars and he was like, I'm gonna take all this stuff that was in prequels and I'm gonna make something new and no one's gonna fucking tell me what to do. You had all this like buried lore and stuff, and those geniuses who made Knights of the Old Republic, they were like, I'm just gonna make something new and no one's gonna fucking tell me what to do. And I think I don't want to shit too hard on Kathleen Kennedy because I feel like Kathleen Kennedy gets like a lot of hate from aggro, like nerd boy Star Wars fans. But I feel like a lot of the issues that have come with like the new franchise and like the new EU content has come from the fact that like everything is sort of like micromanaged and everything is under the thumb of like Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and like the studio execs. Everything has to service like whatever goal they're working towards. Like, originally it was like everything has to service the sequel trilogy. So every new game that came out had to be like, it has to tie into the sequel trilogy in some way. It has to do exactly this in this order, and we have to have this cameo and this little story here to like connect exactly how we want it. And it's sort of like yeah, it's just very overhandled, and like it just leads to it not feeling like a franchise that's made to like really expand. It's just gestating.
Yeah,
basically what you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, like, I've heard this a lot. It's the problem of it just being the Skywalker storyline, just constantly. It's just always about the Skywalkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people kind of crap on the prequel movies for like having too much to do with politics, but I quite enjoyed that. There was like multiple episodes of the Clone Wars that was like just politics, where Padme went to go visit a separatist friend to talk about politics. It's expanding the universe. Like, I just wanted more, because it's what it did was, you know, explore how there's more to the universe than just the fucking Skywalkers and Palpatines duking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice to see that. And if they didn't continue going, like, something about the Mandalorian that is so intriguing to me is that there's all these side plots going on that should be main plots. Like, anyone looking at it would be like, that should feel like a main plot, like Ahsoka trying to find Thrawn, and Luke Skywalker coming in at the end. It's like, well, what's Luke Skywalker doing? And it's like, Din doesn't even know who he is. And that's what I wanted from Star Wars, was just more of the universe. I didn't want to focus on these people anymore. I don't care anymore about the Skywalkers. I think they've been milked. We understand their journeys. We know where they end up. I don't want any more to do with them. I just want the rest of the universe, what the rest of the universe is like. That was something that they just didn't have enough of. Like, it was definitely helpful with TV to be able to do that, is expand. With movies, obviously they do have to follow like certain plots, but it's just like, I hope that they don't continue on anymore with Skywalker or anything like that. Especially because they gave Rey the Skywalker name at the end of the movie, which is really also fucking annoying. So it's like, it makes me fear that they would try and continue the Skywalker legacy more. And it's like, I don't want that. I want other things. I want bounty hunters. Some of my favorite Clone Wars things were just like the bounty hunter offshoots. Like, here's Asajj Ventress going off with bounty hunters onto this other new world that you've never seen before, with this other species that you've never seen before. That's what Star Wars should be. It's seeing all this new stuff, learning new worlds, seeing what other life in the galaxy is like.
That's well said. Can't really expand
totally
on that.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. I guess that's really all we have to say on Star Wars. Just let it be. Let people innovate and expand on the world. Brooke's right. We don't really need to expand on the Star Wars canon anymore, or on the Skywalker canon anymore. So let's see some new things. I think the reason why I said it had an innovation problem is I think pretty much what Brooke said. It's just we've been stuck with the Skywalker canon for so long, and like, eventually, good things, however good they can be, do tend to get old. And I think for us, especially even for a new generation, it's gotten old. So it's time to move on, Disney. You can, if you fucking can. But I mean, we're close to about an hour and a half recording wise, so let's just keep talking more cinematic franchises, because there's a lot. I'm going to bring up two really quick because I'm going to bring up two for a good amount of time. Not overtly long, but we'll see. The first of which is a franchise that Marie-Soleil wanted to talk about, but unfortunately she couldn't be here tonight, and that is the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. You know what? The first three were pretty good, and because I watched them growing up, they have a lot of nostalgia for me. The first movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, then Dead Man's Chest, then World's End, I think. Those have a pretty special place in my heart. Like, they're fun pirate movies. Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow was great, and he eventually became so good in Curse of the Black Pearl that like a good majority of the movie started centering around his character. But aside from that, Barbossa was great. Will and Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley's side romance arc was pretty nice. Like, I've kind of cooled on side romance stories in general, but theirs has a special place in my heart. Davy Jones is a great antagonist, and he looks like pretty menacing. The CGI for most of the crew holds up pretty well, actually. And Yeah, like it's a franchise that holds up pretty well, or at least the first 3 movies, because as a franchise there are 2 movies that follow it. What is the 4th one called? I forget.
Pirate.
Stranger Tides.
It is Stranger Tides.
Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah. I haven't seen Dead Man Tell No Tales, but apparently it was bad. And I have seen Stranger Tides.
But it has skeleton sharks in it, though.
So I have seen Stranger Tides, and that one was pretty bad, because it's like, I don't know, the entire what am I trying to say? Like, it felt like at World's End it had wrapped up pretty well, and we were all kind of ready to move on from it. So revisiting Pirates of the Caribbean was initially kind of exciting, but then when I saw on Stranger Tides and how suddenly everywhere the story had gone from there, I was like, what the hell? I don't really enjoy this anymore. Like, all I remember plot wise is suddenly everyone's trying to find the Fountain of Youth, and like the action scenes were kind of boring. Character development was like pretty shallow, really. I don't remember if fucking Jack Sparrow had a kid. I think that's probably something I'm remembering, but like,
no.
I don't remember. I don't know.
I think it was Barbossa had a child, and Will had his child. And I think those were the only children.
So
yeah, Barbossa had a kid. That's just uncomfortable to think about.
Barbossa's kid showed up in the Dead Men Tell No Tales, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going on to Dead Men Tell No Tales. Don't remember anything from this movie, because I don't remember if I've seen it or not, but apparently it wasn't great, because I think it suffers more or less just like what happened with Stranger Tides. We didn't really need another Pirates movie anymore, because it's basically the same thing. Everyone kind of grew up with the first 3 movies, and moving on to another potential trilogy, I don't think anyone really is invested in it anymore, considering I personally don't know where they're going with it. Like, it was clear from the beginning that the first 3 movies had a vision, like we were talking about in Star Wars, but with these ones, I don't know what the hell is going on. It's more or less just Jack Sparrow getting into more wacky hijinks, but, you know, Johnny Depp has been wrongfully called out for shit that is thing. He's been wrongfully called out for a bunch of shit, so who knows when Disney's gonna like do that again. But yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on with the Pirates franchise. I just hope that they get Johnny Depp back, and if they do decide to do a 3rd movie, I hope it's good, because despite my issues with the first, or with these I guess with the most recent 2 movies, I hope that they do something good with it, because Pirates does really hold a special place in my heart, and I would hate to see it kind of go to waste. But another franchise that is also very close to my heart is the X-Men movies. So I think, like, spanning all the way back to X-Men 1, that was directed by Bryan Singer, then kind of concluding with Dark Phoenix, man, have there been like a lot of hit and miss movies. And I don't want to spend too much time on all of them, because that in itself is a whole cinematic franchise episode that we should have done. But yeah, there have been some great X-Men movies, such as X1, X2 was pretty good. Logan is, I think, undisputably still the best out of those movies. Days of Future Past was pretty good. First Class is pretty fun. And to be honest, like, despite it being pretty bad still, the Wolverine still had, or like X-Men Origins Wolverine still has a little bit of a place in my heart, just because I really enjoy watching Hugh Jackman perform. But then there's also like the obvious issue movies. So like X-Men Apocalypse has been not great. It's been hit or miss with a lot of the audience. X3 has its issues. What is it? I guess the like Dark Phoenix itself, like it's kind of I guess it's kind of a curse now of them trying to do the Dark Phoenix story just because it's so complex and it hasn't been done both during X3 and during its own standalone movie. And yeah, just I wish that like despite the standouts and despite like it standing on its own for a good long time, I'm kind of excited, or like I wish that because now X-Men is back home with Marvel Studios, that they introduced the mutants in I guess not just in a way that makes sense, but like in a way that is more interesting than what they've done so far with when Fox had the property on its own. Because you know, that's not to say that Marvel has always had like amazing ideas consistently, but they do know the characters a lot better than Fox did at times. So yeah, if Marvel's listening, I hope to see what you guys offer, and please don't make it suck. But yeah, moving on to Brooke, then I'll give her another mini franchise to kind of rant about.
Oh shit, I wasn't ready for that.
You can talk about the Fast and Furious movies. We were talking about that before the podcast started.
Well, shit, I don't even remember. So they're coming out with the 9th one, right?
I think.
I could not tell you plot-wise what happens in any of them other than Tokyo Drift and the first one. Like, I literally don't remember. I started watching it because they were all on Netflix and it was COVID quarantine, first lockdown or something like that, and I had a puzzle to build, so I was like, I'm just gonna slap on Fast and Furious movies while I'm doing this puzzle. I would say the first one is good. It's just a good standalone movie. It's, yeah, you know, you just, it's a classic, sit down and watch it, and it's good. It makes sense. Characters are fine. I don't remember what happens in the second one. I know that the third one is in Tokyo, and it's pretty good. It's also one of those standalone. It works really well. You can just take it out of the series and watch it on its own, and it's fine. It works. You don't need the Vin Diesel cameo at the end. You can just leave it at that, and it's fine. And the rest of them, I literally don't remember. They're just like, you want some dumb action to take your mind off of a stressful day? They're freaking perfect for that. You just sit and enjoy it. Watch cars go vroom and bombs go boom, and you're good to go.
Yeah, they get so stupid after thing. They get so goddamn stupid after Tokyo Drift.
It's so fucking funny that they started off as just street racers, and then all of a sudden they all know martial arts and fighting combat techniques, and they're all planning giant heists, and
they're going to space in 9, I think,
and going out of buildings from one building to another building, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? But you just take it for what it is, like the feats of physics.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Just as long as you've got family, that's their pitch, right?
I think the moment that like that franchise, I was like, wow, okay, this is just like really just reached absolute bad shit level. Was in like the most recent one, I think. God, I don't even remember the fucking order, but there's this one scene where a fucking nuclear missile gets launched out of a submarine, and it's going after Vin Diesel, and he fucking does like an air dodge.
Fucking what?
In his car to make the nuclear missile hit the sub that it launched from.
What?
And then he gets launched out of his car, and like the nuclear missile explosion is like coming towards him, and the other cars and his family come and they block the nuclear bomb with their cars.
Dude, bullshit! You're fucking with me right now. Are you actually?
I'm not fucking with you even remotely.
Oh
not
my
even
god! I didn't know it got that stupid.
Yeah. The most recent Fast and the Furious movie has a nuclear missile launch.
and they're going to space. And apparently they're going to space in this new one. Oh my god. Next thing you know, fucking Vin Diesel is gonna somehow make a meteor like evade Earth. But,
bro, they better be getting the like Dragon Ball levels by the time the 10th movie comes out.
Oh my god.
If they're not just picking up like celestial objects and throwing them at each other, but still like working cars into it, like it's almost self-parody at a certain point.
It'll be a thing. It'll like I bet by like 15 they're gonna introduce mechas, and their cars are going to be like their torso or something.
I'm actually shocked that they haven't done like a Transformers crossover yet.
Yeah. But I mean, like, whatever they got going on with Bumblebee, that should be the Transformers that they cross over. Don't bring Michael Bay back. I've already expressed how I don't fucking like those movies. But I mean, if you want heart if you want a good heart crossover, Bumblebee writers know how to write heart into the movies, so who knows? You'll have a bunch of big campy action, but like there's still a lot of soul in your movie, so yeah. Oh my god. What the hell? Like I respect like the people who are still kind of watching those movies for like the meme of it. I don't know why people like, I don't know if there's anyone who's taking those movies seriously.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine.
All right, Gabe, is there another franchise you want to quickly talk about before we get to Lord of the Rings?
There's a franchise is very close to my heart. The original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. That was my fucking childhood. That was like that's the shit that I always go back to because I just love those movies so much. I don't even know how to rank them. Like, I mean, I know how to rank them. Spider-Man 1 was like really, really good. Spider-Man 2 makes me calm. Spider-Man 3 is like, it has the reputation that it has and it kind of deserves it, but like I think it gets undeservedly hated a little bit because it's just like I feel like people are like, oh, it's too campy, and it's like this whole trilogy is campy. Like it can be a little silly. It goes a little far, but like I think it gets a lot of undeserved hate because like it came out around the time The Dark Knight came out, and so I think like people were like more on board with like serious superheroes by that point in time. So like Sam Raimi trilogy still being Sam Raimi, it was less acceptable than when it was like right after the 90s.
Right.
But I don't know. I still like them. I still thought they're just fucking fun movies. I think like I don't know. There's no superhero movie that's really captured like that feeling, and maybe it's just like childhood nostalgia is just clouding me. But like I don't think there's any movie that's like really captured that same like superhero feeling that those movies like captured. Like those fucking scenes where like he's swinging by and someone and just some random pedestrian would be like, "Yeah, Spider-Man." That shit just hits me. It's like serotonin machine right there. It's just good shit. It's just a good franchise. I don't have anything super complex to say about them, other than nothing that's come after in terms of Spider-Man content, except for Spider-Verse, but that's like a whole other level.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, not as much of a fan. I think Andrew Garfield Spider-Man took way too much cues from like The Dark Knight, and I still feel like Tom Holland Spider-Man has an identity problem. But like the Raimi trilogy is a beaut, and I can't wait for his Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. Actually, like,
I almost screamed when I heard that Danny Elfman has been brought on to do the soundtrack.
Oh my god, I love Danny Elfman. Oh my god, just Alan Silvestri, Hans Zimmer are my favorite. Or like, I can list off a lot of my favorite composers, but I think that's a different episode for a completely different podcast that doesn't exist. But anyway, I was just gonna say, like, if you think about it, Spider-Man in itself is its own has its own franchise. It's just kind of been rebooted into different movies, but like Spider-Man is still like one of Marvel's biggest characters, if not undisputably its biggest character. So like it makes sense that he would have like not just one trilogy, but like have technically a duology and a new trilogy at this point with the MCU, because he's just a fun character. Like he's young enough so that a lot of teenagers and I think preteens resonate with Peter Parker being this like, you know, just this regular kid kind of. But like the whole mantle of anyone can be Spider-Man at some point, like that's great. Like, and I think even more so when that's brought into Spider-Verse. Because Into the Spider-Verse, I think is in my opinion the best piece of Spider-Man media that exists right now. Like, I think undisputably. Like, I haven't read the comics. I've played the PS4 game. Haven't played Miles Morales yet. And I've been pretty much up to date with all the Spider-Man movies. I love Spider-Verse so much to say that, though, because it just captures who Spider-Man is. Like, and it's fun watching, like, for one thing, it's fun watching Spider-Man on screen and watching how they do the different spider people in Spider-Verse. It's wonderful. Any thoughts from Miss Spider-Verse profile picture herself, or?
I do love Spider-Verse.
Yeah. You haven't changed that picture, I think, in like since the Discord was created, I don't think.
Oh, technically I did.
You just went from one Spider-Verse picture to a different one?
Yeah. I literally did. I think I changed like the brightness or like the color scheme just like a slight bit. I went and looked at pictures and I was like, hey, this one is slightly different, and then I changed it. I'm like, oh. It doesn't look different at all. But I know it's different.
No, I noticed it was different. I kind of caught on to it, but yeah. Spider-Man's a great franchise. Kind of indifferent about, or I'm kind of different about Amazing Spider-Man, but that's another conversation. But
I mean, I don't think it's bad. I mean,
it's not bad.
I think the second one's bad, and I don't want to shit on Andrew Garfield because I really like Andrew Garfield as an actor.
Yeah.
I think that I don't want to say that the Amazing Spider-Man was like dog shit, but like I think it was. I think it slipped. I think it slipped a little bit. I think they kind of misused Andrew Garfield because like dude's a fucking great actor. I just don't think he was like given like a super amazing script, and like I think it took way too many cues from like The Dark Knight, because they were like, what if we did gritty, realistic Spider-Man? But it's like, with Batman, it's one thing, because Batman's whole thing is he's a guy in a suit who beats up criminals. He's already dark and gritty. Spider-Man's Spider-Man. There's like, okay, there's maybe a few runs of Spider-Man that are dark and gritty, but like, you can't, if you want to do dark and gritty Spider-Man, you'd have to do an adaptation of those runs. You can't do like, let's just make Spider-Man baseline dark and gritty. Like, doesn't work.
Yeah. I hope I
will say, if they made Kingpin the villain of that movie, then that would have fucking worked.
Oh yeah, that would have been good actually. Because Kingpin was a great villain against Miles in Spider-Verse. So I think if they did make Kingpin, yeah, I'll second that opinion. So, I think let's close off with Lord of the Rings. I think that's a pretty big enough franchise that at least, we've all seen at least just one of those movies, right? And that accounts for not just the original books or the original trilogy. So we're not just going to be talking about Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King, but we're also going to be talking about the Hobbit movies. And I have a lot of praise for the original trilogy. I have a lot of criticism towards the Hobbit, but I think I've talked about that already in a previous episode when we did book adaptations and I was shitting all over the Hobbit. So yeah, I'm going to offer some good things about the original trilogy. It was great. I think like for its time, they really told a good story. It's kind of hard for me to judge a book adaptation because it's been a while since I've like read the books, but from what I can remember, like it was pretty good. It was a good adaptation, especially for the source material, because like obviously Tolkien's is infamous for setting standards within fantasy in general. The portrayals were great. A lot of the costume designs, the music is like absolutely iconic, and people would kind of criticize the runtime, but the runtime's fine. Like given how much story there is and how much lore and world building there is in Lord of the Rings, like 3 hour plus movies are fine with me. I love binging the Lord of the Rings movies. I think like since I owned all of them, I've done it at least once a year. And that's just like the base cut. Like I haven't done the extended cuts because I don't own them, but I imagine I would love those just as much. Because as a fantasy writer, like I just love Lord of the Rings. And like I've said, I've already shit on the Hobbit, so I'm not gonna do that, but I'll give the opportunity to everybody else. So let's start with Brooke.
I have only watched the first one.
Fellowship?
Yeah.
What'd you think on Fellowship then?
I don't know. I watched it twice and I don't really remember anything.
All right. Well,
Sorry, I remember Ring Invisible. River, Cross River. Dementors. Dementors coming on horses. That's all I remember. Man, old man stuck in tower, sent moth, I think.
Sends moth.
Moth is
I don't remember Gandalf sending a moth.
He's like
what?
What? Okay. I believe both of you. I guess so much for Lord of the Rings being the final cinematic franchise we talk about. We can talk about like Harry Potter.
I have to say we didn't talk
After.
about
No, we're still going to talk about Lord of the Rings, but like for a final one, we can talk about Harry Potter being like the final one.
Yeah. All the input I can give is I've watched the first one twice and I still don't even remember what happens in it.
All right.
I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I mean, I don't want to call myself a huge Lord of the Rings fan because I have never read the books. I'm supposed to be reading them for a class right now, but I'm just spark notesing it and watching the movies because like I just can't be asked. But yeah, I fucking dig the hell out of Lord of the Rings. But I mean, Fellowship is probably my least favorite because especially now that I tried reading the first book and I just hate the Hobbits now. If I have to read one more sentence of some character going, "Oh, this is Brumpledick from Poohwood, and he's having a bake-off," and I'm like, "Okay, but can we get to the part where Aragorn is chopping off orcs' heads? I want to get to that part, please, for the love of God." I have complete trash brain when it comes to this sort of stuff, and I just a lot of Lord of the Rings I really really like, especially the aforementioned murder, but like man, those movies are super super long and a lot of it's like shit that is just way over my head, like especially a lot of the elf stuff, and I'm just like, whew, okay, cool. Can I get to that part where Aragorn stabs an orc and the orc just like grabs the sword and pulls it further into him and he's like, "Gah," and I'm like, yeah. I'm in a weird headspace with Lord of the Rings right now because I got onto this podcast after having like a 3-hour conversation with someone else over text where I was like doing this bit where Aragorn is like a genocidal maniac whose only motivation in the franchise is that he just hates orcs, and this whole thing in this series that it was just an excuse to kill orcs. But like that completely aside, I think I don't know, they're fun movies, and I really like watching battles. I really admire like it's weird. It's sort of the same thing with like the kaiju thing. A lot of my admiration for kaiju movies it's just like it's not even just watching them. I just really admire the craftsmanship, and it's sort of the same thing with Lord of the Rings. I watch Lord of the Rings, and I'm just like I really admire how much like work is put into all the costumes and all the makeup and shit. Like there's a lot of CGI, and I think people shit on CGI unfairly. Like CGI, it still takes a lot of work. Like people are like, "Oh, CGI is cheating." No, it's not really cheating. You put a lot of effort into CGI. Like you can't just fucking pull a computer and slap a graphic on a screen and call it a fucking day. Like you have, but like there's something about practical effects that still tickles like a special part of my brain, and like Lord of the Rings really gets that. I think like they've got all these immaculate fucking swords. They've got all these crazy set designs. They've got all these super detailed costumes. It's just it's just good. And like again, I don't want to shit on CGI, but I feel like The Hobbit kind of fucked that up with like how much of those movies are CGI. Because I think what Lord of the Rings does really well is it's like a solid blend. Like the shit that would be just impossible to do as a practical effect, they do as CGI, and it's like they can get across these like huge, crazy objects or these characters that you just couldn't do with practical effects. But when it is a practical effect, like it looks fucking amazing. Like some of the shit in those movies just looks so fucking good, especially the aforementioned orc genocide. Just those orcs are so interesting. All the orcs are so interesting looking in those movies. They're like they all look fucked up. They all have like crazy looking snarl faces, and like you can just tell it's sort of the same thing like that I have with like the Mandalorian, where like there's all those. I think there's that set photo that I always go back to with Mandalorian, where it's like there's all those like clone troopers who are just because they needed like 1 million clone troopers for one episode, and they just contacted a bunch of people who are just Star Wars fans. They were like, "Hey, do you want to fucking dress up as a clone trooper or I'm being an idiot stormtrooper and like hang out and fucking get shot by the Mandalorian?" And they were like, "Fuck yeah, I want to do that. I'm fucking there, dude." And like I sort of get that with Lord of the Rings. I feel like a lot of these orcs are just guys in heavy makeup, just having a fucking great time. And yeah, I don't know. I really like those movies. I won't say that I'm like super sentimental about them, because they're not like I don't know. They never really they didn't like affect my life or anything. But like I like them. They're good. I'll watch them like just whenever, even though they're it's like what 9 hours to watch all 3 of them
without like, extended cuts.
That's without extended cuts. Fuck.
And that's just the thing. That's just like the original trilogy.
Oh, I don't think I've ever watched The Hobbit again after first time I watched it.
No,
I
go ahead.
I can't. Well, it's the effects thing. I can't because like every time I go back and watch Lord of the Rings, there's another thing that I notice in the background, and I'm like, oh man, that orc looks fucking crazy. And then I'm like, oh, that orc looks fucking crazy too. Like there's this one in the fucking third movie who just looks completely fucked up, and I love him. I love his design. Like also, I'm gonna send a picture to the chat. He looks like he has like a fucking tumor on his face. It's so fucked up looking. Yeah, I love it so much. It's such a creative design for a guy in a movie. Just to have his fucking face look like it was melted off. It's just good shit. I love the orcs and the fucking weapon design and the shit in that movie so much. That movie was like I've never LARPed before. I've never gone that far in terms of being a dweebus. But like that movie was the first time that I was like, oh man, maybe that would be fun. Just get a fucking costume and swing a sword around and just make noises.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Yeah. See, okay, so I won't touch on it too much, but you had mentioned how you wouldn't shit on the CGI because that's been done to death in The Hobbit, but I absolutely will shit on the CGI on The Hobbit because fuck the CGI in The Hobbit. Oh my god. I'm of the same opinion. So like I love whenever people talk about practical effects and like, you know, putting all of that design and work into it, because obviously support your artists. And I guess just secondly, like it's more to invest in, really. Like everything looks nicer and more organic, I think, when everything is handmade and practical. In The Hobbit, when there's too much CGI, it's almost campy. Like it's kind of dumb, really. Like I can buy orc here with like with that kind of face, and I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. But like a shiny, clean Azog orc, like the main antagonists in the Hobbit movies, no, I can't buy that shit at all. And because of CGI, and I think maybe because of the over-reliance to CGI, that's given us absolutely dumb shit, like the fucking barrel scene from the second movie. I'm like, stop it. But like I said, I've already shit on The Hobbit enough, so let's talk Harry Potter to close out tonight's episode. The fuck?
Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
I've heard that's not at all how he talks in the book.
Brooke, what the fuck did you just say?
I can touch you now.
Harry Potter is dead.
Don't you love us, Dean? Yeah.
I kind of just want to wrap the episode up there. We don't need to talk about Harry Potter anymore.
I want to talk about it a little bit because
okay.
I only just recently watched it for the first time.
All of them?
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. I was not someone who grew up with it in the household. We didn't have any of the books. We didn't have any of the movies, so I never got to see anything of Harry Potter. Like, I already knew all the spoilers going into it, so that was a bit sad.
Oh.
But like watching it, I feel like I missed out on the magic of it. I truly did. Like, it was fun just watching them, but I didn't feel like that invested. And shit, I completely lost my train of thought. I had something that I was going to say. Oh, okay. The thing that threw me off the most was that I had no idea Voldemort was going to speak so much. It kind of threw me off hearing him speak and kind of be like human and like laugh. And I was like, I don't want that. You don't intimidate me now.
I like hearing Ralph Fiennes speak, but I don't like hearing Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort speak sometimes. You're right.
I didn't like it. It didn't make me intimidated. I was more scared by the freaking Azkaban guards or whatever. Wait, what was it?
Azkaban?
Azkaban. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
The Azkaban guards. I fucking hated those. I thought those were his followers. So I was really confused when they were just like, they're prison guards. I'm like, what do you mean they're prison guards? Pardon? They're terrified prison guards. What the
fuck? I'm laughing because like we were talking about the dad school earlier, and like you said that you couldn't remember what they were called, so you're gonna call it the Dementors. And now we're talking about the Dementors. And they're just the prison guards. But yeah, I totally agree with that. Voldemort loses like all presence the moment he opens his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No, he's introduced as a goddamn shriveled fetus baby, and I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah.
And then they just drop him into a cauldron, and I was like, oh, this is the bad guy? What is this? He's a jelly bean. Just stab him.
He's a jelly bean. He's a chia pet. We gotta just let him grow.
I was so confused. What the fuck?
He's just a gross little man. You gotta give him a little bath. Let him grow. Let his bones grow.
He's one of those like dollar store, like he's one of those dollar store nuggets that you put in like water and then you watch them grow over time.
Don't call it nugget. Oh, it's gross. Don't call it nugget. Oh, disgusting.
I'm sorry. But do you know what I mean though? Like those grow things, they were like came in like those like fucking like medicine capsules. You put them in water and then suddenly they grow into like dinosaur shapes.
Chia pets. I was saying that earlier. That's not chia pet.
That's not what a chia pet is.
The chia pet is like the grass thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I fucked up. What are the fucking things? The dinosaur sponge.
They're just
the grow things.
Spongy things. Yeah,
I call them grow things because that's what they were in like in every superstore and like they were always like grow, and then it was just like fucking we're going on a tangent. Stop. We need to go back. Okay. Harry Potter.
Sorry. Yeah.
I kind of started watching them around either Prisoner of Azkaban or Goblet of Fire. And Brooke was talking about like experiencing the magic of Harry Potter. Like, I wish I was there from the beginning, because when I started Philosopher's Stone and worked my way up through the rest of the movies after they'd all come out, I'm like, damn, okay, this is, now I know, like, I think it was probably like one of my earliest instances of like understanding just why people invest in franchises in the first place. Because it's like, Brooke's right, like there is a lot of like magic in these franchises, especially because they're like little kids too. You can easily see like families buying into this journey, and then eventually as they grow up, it's like, as the series gets darker too, it's like people are maturing and like, yeah, I get it now. It's that long-term investment, you know. Did I just take away all the conversation by saying that? There's nothing left to add, guys.
I don't know if I have like anything crazy to say about Harry Potter that I didn't get out in my little spiel.
Fair enough. I think like I guess I can kind of go on then. I mean, assuming everyone hasn't already tuned out already. Yeah, like it introduced a lot of like iconic characters. It's become like a big franchise for a reason, save for some recent controversies lately by J.K. Rowling. Like, it's still in a lot of people's memory. Like the sorting house system, which we've shat on numerous times on previous podcasts, like that wouldn't have existed were it not for Harry Potter like making it its own and making it so iconic. And I think movie wise, like just introduce, like having so many like iconic names behind it. Like everyone knows who Tom Felton is, everyone knows who Daniel Radcliffe is, everyone knows who Emma Watson is. Like, it's a star making thing, and I think that's the thing with cinematic franchises overall. Like it gives people things to remember and things to invest in, right? Mm-hmm. And with Harry Potter, I think it's like just magic. I think like kind of unexplainable magic. I still don't know how Harry Potter's magic system works really, but like it's magic. Sometimes you don't really need an explanation. When you're marketing it towards young adults, they don't really want an in-depth explanation like how we do. Like, just magic's magic. It's fun. It's supposed to be however you want. Like, if you want flying cars, cool. That's sweet. If you want pushback spells,
voting antes.
Yeah, it's all good. If you want Nazgul Dementors or whatever the fuck, great. If you want shriveled beans becoming evil villains that lose their intimidation as soon as they speak, yeah, awesome. That's great.
Woo.
Like, it's fun. Franchises, I think, give us things to, like I said, they give us things to like care for, really. And despite me cooling on J.K. Rowling, like it's undeniable that her franchise has given people like a lot to care about, right? Especially movie wise, because it's obvious that digesting movies is a lot easier than digesting books. So, anything left to add, guys? Because I've been talking a lot.
Great. Oh, that's fine. It's your podcast.
I don't want it to be.
You love to say. You love to speak your mind.
I repeated myself twice, Brooke. That's not good.
That's fine. Whatever. Okay.
All right.
Film franchises are fun and great and a good way to expand the universe, draw you into other mediums such as TV shows or novels or anything like that. But sometimes they can go over the mark and end up getting milked too much, and even actors start to hate their characters that they're portraying. So it's a sweet spot of just having those perfect trilogies or having longer periods of rest in between reboots or continuations to keep fans engaged and interested and not just milk the market.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always fun to have more than one movie to fall in love with and see worlds and characters evolve.
Pretty much. Gabe, anything to add? I guess since we're on our final thoughts.
Yeah, movie's good. I feel like I mean, this is just a recurring thing. I feel like my biggest issue with that could potentially come up, I mean, for me personally anyway, with like cinematic universes is like trying too hard to be like a other cinematic universe, or like to compete with Marvel.
Marvel.
I think the best cinematic franchises are like the ones that are just like a guy, like someone who wants to make like a just story on a long-term scale, and maybe it involves a character that we're super familiar with, maybe it doesn't, but it's like people with like, I don't know, visions and like ideas and shit, and like just a group of people. Like there's always a big like a group effort. Like Lord of the Rings are like the kaiju movies. Those are two great examples of just like shit where it's like you have just a bunch of people who are like, okay, well, we're just gonna, like, you have a bunch of people doing their part, and there's not really a lot of like, I don't know, I don't want to sound like a total hipster and like a I like my obscure kaiju movies, but like I think there's a magic with movies like that where it's like a bunch of people working on something, and there's no like, I mean, there are studio execs involved in those movies. I'm not saying there aren't, but like they're not. It's not like they're like really making it. Like they're involved with the project on a financial level, but like it's mostly a bunch of people who are just like really creative people who are working to make some fucking magic happen.
I think if I hadn't already said it, then basically cinematic franchises just gives us things to care about. And whether that be characters, items, plot points, like it's a lot easier for a general audience to like watch a movie than it is to like sit down, read a book, or play a video game. Like you're only giving away like 2 hours worth of your time for a movie, and that can be at one time. Like you don't always have to sit down and binge everything, right? And that's, I think, what cinematic franchises are good for. It gives us little pockets of things that we get to invest in and wait for over time. And yeah, I think with that being said, let's just close it off for there, because there isn't really much else that we can kind of expand on. Obviously, there's a lot of cinematic franchises that we missed out on discussing, but we can do that as a honorable mention. But I think for now, let's close off. So thanks everybody for listening. You can find all of our social media in the description down below, both individually and as the Ink Guild. We're on TikTok now. Make sure to follow us on TikTok at the Ink Guild. We're going to be posting a bunch of stuff, not just from our podcast, but about our stuff. And let's quickly thing. So I'm going to quickly dismiss anyone that needs to go. So if Gabe, Brooke, if you guys need to like head out to go to the washroom or something, go. But if you guys want to stick around, or if anyone's free to do so, then let's just go through some honorable mentions that we didn't really touch on in the podcast. And we're not going to elaborate on it, but basically honorable mentions. Shrek is a honorable mention. How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon. The Mission Impossible movies.
James Bond.
Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Does the Cornetto trilogy count as like a franchise?
Probably.
Would we count that?
I think so. Toy Story.
Ocean's 11.
The Oceans franchise.
Fucking love the Oceans. Woo.
Hunger Games. Jurassic Park.
God, Jurassic Park.
What is it? All the Batman movies, both individually within their franchise and as a franchise in general. I guess Superman movies for that instance, and within the MCU, the individual trilogies, so Iron Man, Captain America, Thor.
Those all kind of work in tangent of the MCU, though.
Yeah, but they're still kind of their own movies.
As off one as like say the Batman trilogy. You can watch the Batman trilogy, like the Dark Knight Rises one, and like just as they are. But with the Marvel movies, you kind of have to watch them with each other. That's
fair. Okay, so Ice Age. Right. That was a cinematic franchise.
Oh.
Chronicles of Narnia, Twilight.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, we were talking about Twilight and stuff. Tragic.
Yeah, it's okay. But I think there's so many that we can talk about, and maybe we can do a part 2, but for now, let's call it a night. So again, thanks for listening, everybody. Sleep well tonight.
Bye guys.
Bye.